Did you ever stand in front of the refrigerator trying to figure out what looks good? I'm hungry, but I don't know what I want. Chances are, whatever I grab in an effort to fill this void in my stomach, it will be unfulfilling, maybe even unhealthy, and certainly not nutritious. Frankly, I totally expect to wind up feeling guilty about my between meals snack. Oh, cheese. I like cheese. Got a couple of different kinds of cheese here, so I think I'm going to get those. And well, if I have cheese, I'm going to need some mustard, because I like mustard with my cheese. And what else do we have that might be good? Oh, pickles. I like pickles. I like the sweet kind. That's pretty good. So, hey, stay here, and I'll be back right when I finish my snack. I think I ate too much. I told you it wouldn't be fulfilling. All I feel now is guilty. I overate between meals. Oh well. Hey, I read about a man who was suing a hospital. A doctor had performed a staple surgery on his stomach to help him lose weight. A couple of days after his operation, he raided the hospital refrigerator and stuffed himself with everything he could find. Well, what happened? This tore open his staples and forced a second surgery. He was suing the hospital for having a refrigerator too near to his room. He claimed the temptation was too great. Thus, his complications were not his own fault, but the hospital's fault. Now, I don't know, but I have a feeling his suit probably didn't go too far. And fortunately, my little trip to the refrigerator didn't lead to any lasting complications. There's an axiom that is useful to remember. You don't throw a drowning person a sandwich, no matter how good the sandwich might be. You've probably surmised that all this talk about hunger has little to do with food. Food is only one way we try to fill a void that is present in all human souls. Blaise Pascal said it better than I can. There is a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of each man which cannot be satisfied by any created thing, but only by God the Creator, made known through Jesus Christ. The God-shaped hole concept states that every person has a void in his soul, in his spirit, in his life that can only be filled by God. The God-shaped hole is the innate longing in the human heart for something outside of oneself, something other. Something akin to standing in front of the refrigerator and wanting something, but not being able to figure out what it is that you want. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11 refers to God's placing of eternity in man's heart. God made humanity for his eternal purpose, and only God can fulfill our desire for eternity. All religion is based on this built-in desire to connect with God. This desire can only be fulfilled by God, and therefore can be likened to a God-shaped hole. The problem, though, is that humanity ignores this hole or attempts to fill it with things other than God. Sure, food is one thing, We can try to use that to fill the void. Others include money, drugs, alcohol, sex, power, TV, video games, and of course our devices. Does this look like it's God-shaped? I don't think so. Not hardly. Jeremiah 17 verse 9 describes the condition of our hearts, saying the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Solomon reiterates the same concept. The hearts of men, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live. That's from Ecclesiastes 9 verse 3. The New Testament agrees. The sinful mind is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. That's from Romans 8, verse 7. The Bible describes that humanity ignores that we can be known. The Bible describes that humanity ignores what can be known about God, including the God-shaped whole, and instead worships anything and everything other than God. Sadly, too many people spend their lives looking for something other than God to fill their longing for meaning. But in pursuing these things that are not eternal, they remain unfulfilled and wonder why their lives never seem satisfactory. There's no doubt that many people pursuing these things other than God achieve a measure of happiness for a time. But when we consider Solomon, who had all the riches, all the success, the esteem, and power of the world, in short, he had all that men seek after in this life. We see that none of it fulfilled. It did not fulfill the longing for eternity. He declared it all vanity, meaning that he sought after these things in vain because they did not satisfy. In Ecclesiastes 12:13, he said, "Now all has been heard. There is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man." Just as a square peg cannot fill a round hole, neither can the God-shaped hole inside each of us be filled with anyone or anything other than God. Only through a personal relationship with God, through faith in Jesus Christ, can the God-shaped hole be filled and the desire for eternity fulfilled. Our gospel lesson this week begins with John 1, verses 1 through 4. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. That what has come into being in him was life. And the life was the light of all people. This, of course, reminds us of the very beginning words in Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void. That void, just like the God-shaped void in all humanity, was filled with the Word, which is Jesus. One of the striking features of the Gospel of John is the way it depicts the life and ministry of Jesus Christ. The other Gospels tell us stories about Jesus. Then, like the disciples, we are left to ask, who is this that wind and sea obey? Who is this who feeds the multitude on a couple of loaves of bread and a few fish. But in the Gospel of John, there's never a doubt who Jesus is because he tells us. Usually he does so with a statement that begins with the words, I am. Put Jesus in a situation and he will clarify who he is and what he has come to do. You can put Jesus in the desert, surrounded by people who are chronically unsatisfied, and Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. I guess I should have read that from John 6:35 before I visited the refrigerator. You can put him in the midst of people who are confused, people who ask, who are you, Jesus? What makes you different from all the other gurus, rabbis, and religious leaders? And Jesus says, I am the gate for the sheep. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. If you put him at graveside in the midst of grief-stricken people, Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. Or put him in the midst of people who feel disconnected by life's difficulties. And Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me, you can do nothing. Valuable words to remember during this pandemic. In the Gospel of John, in one situation after another, Jesus defines himself and says, this is who I am. In the 8th chapter, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. His words echo the opening words of John chapter 1, verses 3, 4, and 9, where the Apostle John defines the person and work of Jesus in terms of light. Hear John's words. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. Jesus says, I am the light of the world. This is the kind of thing we might expect to hear in these days after Christmas. Not long ago, we gathered on Christmas Eve to hear the prophet Isaiah say, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. We can't know if Isaiah had any idea of who or what he was talking. Yet we celebrate Christmas as a festival of light. We string up twinkle lights on trees, we illuminate our houses, we light candles in the windows and put LED bulbs on our shrubberies. We burn up the kilowatts because Jesus Christ is born. In the bleak midwinter, as we shelter in place, waiting for relief from this pandemic, why not shine a little light in our homes, in our hearts, and especially in that God-shaped void? Amen.